The following program contains explicit support for the War of Independence. If you are a pacifist, Randall may not be right for you. Check with your local Quaker.
Proclaiming the truth in the highways and byways of the world. Fighting for justice in the dark alleys of politics. Raising the voice of resistance to a fevered pitch. The host who has no equal. He uses sweet and low. Randall Terry.
Thank you. Thank you. I am corny. I love it too. Oh, I love you. And I'm glad that you came with me today. Oh, there's so much in the news. President Obama and Prime Minister Netanyahu met for 90 minutes. And the United States government is suing the state of Arizona and the governor. And the GOP still can't figure out what to do with Elena Kagan. I'll give you some instructions in a little while, gentlemen. Today's program brought to you in part by Hamas, the moderate killers of Jewish people, and by Benjamin Netanyahu, who doesn't want moderates living next door. Go figure. Quick, we have a word from our good friend, Captain Scurvy, and then to the news and a brand new song that I wrote especially for Mitch McConnell. You're gonna like it. I'll be right back.
Ahoy, matey! I hope you had a lovely 4th of July weekend celebrating America's independence. Can you imagine if the British Queen or the Prime Minister were to say, "Hey, Mr. Obama, we'd like you to give up those occupied territories." Talking about Maryland and Virginia and Pennsylvania and the whole lot of the 13 colonies. We want them back. Well, we'd all laugh and carry on with a big glass of grog, perhaps, but that's exactly what the boys in Syria and Jordan are doing with those folks over there in Israel. See, they lost some land in a fight that they picked with the Jews. And now they're saying, we want our land back. Boys, you'd sooner get some money out of British Petroleum than get the land back from the Jews. Go on about your business, boys. You lost.
Hi, friend. Welcome to today's program. We are going to have fun, especially the upcoming song that I wrote for Mitch McConnell and our friends at the GOP. I hope that you had a moment over the 4th of July weekend to reflect on the Declaration of Independence, on the fact that our rights and our freedoms come from God, not from the state. But even something a little bit perhaps more distressing than that, I wonder if you thought about what it would be like to pick up arms to fight your own government. We have to remember that that's what the founders of this republic were doing. They were British citizens, and they were picking up arms to stop tyranny, to stop oppression, to fight against injustice, and to assert their God-given rights that were being denied them by the oppressors, their fellow citizens, their own government from England. It's a truly fearful thought. I've thought about it a lot over the years. What would it have been like for those men to actually have to pick up arms against their fellow countrymen? It's frightening. Let's go to the news. Arizona taken to court by the U.S. Attorney General, Eric Holder. The United States versus Arizona. Eric Holder, with an astute grasp of the obvious, said, and I quote, "Arizonans are understandably frustrated about illegal immigration."
Oh, frustrated? Are you kidding, Eric? It might go a little deeper than frustrated.
Well, sorry, Arizona. Because even though you want the U.S. government to simply enforce the laws that are on the books, it's not going to happen. And guess what? They're going to take you to court for trying to get them to obey their own laws. Is this a crazy country or what? I want to encourage you to read the law. I have read over half of it, and I have to admit that there were points that I thought, this is a little draconian. But most of the Arizona law is simply forcing or trying to force the federal government to enforce its own laws. The feds are the ones who control immigration policy, and the Arizona law simply keeps stating over and over, in accordance with federal law regarding illegal immigration. So we have a situation where a state is begging the federal government to simply do what the law requires. And guess what? The federal government isn't doing it. We all know that there are portions of U.S. immigration law that are simply not being enforced, period. And so that generates a huge contempt for the law. Let me say one other thing about illegal immigration. What most of this comes down to is benefits. It's about money. When we had massive waves of immigrants coming here in the 1800s and the early 1900s, there were not the huge social welfare programs that sucked the financial life out of a community, out of a county, or out of a state. So when they came from Italy or from Poland or from Germany, they weren't coming for the bennies. I want to get over there so I can have a free this and a free that. They weren't risking their lives in the 1700s to come over here and get free education and free health care and the bailout of Fleet Street, London. No, they came here for freedom, for economic opportunity, for religious freedom, for land. So if we did not have this massive, bloated, salvific, socialist plantation, a lot of people wouldn't be so upset. We need to back out of the socialist state that we have become. And friends, we didn't get here overnight. We're not going to leave overnight. And it is going to be turbulent waters. There will be turbulent waters when we try and back out of this mess that we're in economically. And that, in my opinion, is the bigger connection to the crisis at hand. All right, on to other news. President Obama and Prime Minister Netanyahu met in the White House for 90 minutes today. And they emerged, and President Obama said that America and Israel have an unbreakable bond. Unbreakable? What about Iranian kryptonite? Well, they talked about Iran, as a matter of fact, and the U.S. is dragging its feet as far as Israel is concerned, and they're not moving fast enough with economic sanctions or with military threats, for that matter. So there's still problems down the road with Iran. Israel knows it, America knows it, and I don't think that America simply knows what to do under this president. What was not talked about was the continuing of building houses in what is referred to as East Jerusalem, which includes the Old City and outlying little communities just to the east of Jerusalem, all part of the West Bank that was taken by the Jews in 1967. If you look at a map, you've got the Golan Heights, you've got the West Bank, and you've got the Gaza Strip. These were won by the Jews, by Israel, when Syria and Jordan and Egypt tried to destroy them. As Captain Scurvy pointed out, the fruits of war are the fruits of war. Syria and Jordan went to war with Israel to try and wipe them off the face of the earth, to conquer them, to take away their nation. And it didn't go the way they planned. And so they won. The Jews won, and they have the land. I have to tell you two quick things. One is that if you saw what the Jews were doing to Palestinian homes and to Palestinians, you would think it was an outrage in some circumstances and that it was incredibly unjust. But number two, if you and I had to live with people that were committed to our death or our political destruction, we might take measures like that as well. It's a horrible conundrum that's not going away fast. I got to take a break. I'll be right back.
There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover. That explains a lot about why they'll be white.
Moments with Moses. You shall not bring the hire of a harlot, or the wages of a dog into the house of the Lord your God, in payment for any vow. For both of these are an abomination to the Lord your God.
Welcome back to the program, friend. If you look at what is going on in Israel, the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, East Jerusalem as it's so called, you and I just simply can't imagine what it is like as Americans. We can't imagine what it would be like to live next door to people who are within shooting distance of killing you, sending rockets, literally thousands of rockets. In 2001, about 2 months after 9/11, there was a study done, a very comprehensive poll was taken of Palestinians. And it was all economic groups and all ages. So they wanted to see, well, maybe the poor people of Palestine are in support of terrorism, but the educated are not. Or maybe professionals are not, but lower income people are, or just students. In other words, they were really grasping what's the dynamic of the supporters of terrorism. I want to show you a couple things from this test, or rather from this poll, that are actually quite alarming. Listen to this. In your opinion, are there any circumstances under which you would justify the use of terrorism to achieve political goals? Ready? 32 to 39% said yes, and the more educated people had a higher percentage that said, yes, I would use terrorism. That's over a third of the Palestinians polled said, I would resort to terrorism. I personally would resort to terrorism. I believe in it, that it's appropriate to achieve a political goal. But here's where it gets really frightening. Watch this. Well, what is terrorism, you might want to ask. I'm going to read to you the exact quote and statement that was in this test. To what extent do you agree or disagree to define the following event as a terrorist act? Quote, the killing of 21 Israeli youths by a Palestinian who exploded himself at the Dolphinarium nightclub in Tel Aviv. All right? So do you agree or disagree that a young Palestinian who walks into a nightclub and blows himself up and kills 21 Israeli youths, do you think that that is a terrorist act, yes or no? Ready? 78 to 84% of the people polled said this is not a terrorist act. Across all economic spectrums, across all educational spectrum, these are farmers, these are professionals, these are laborers. Over a third of those people said, yes, terrorism is okay. But over 80% of them said that someone going in and blowing themselves up in a nightclub, that's not even terrorism. Well, for the love of truth, what are they talking about when they say, I would resort to terrorism? Oh, but that guy blowing himself up and killing all those Jews, that's not even terrorism. That's lightweight. If you and I had to live next door to people like this, who were committed to using terrorism, thought it was ethically appropriate, thought nothing of a young person going into a nightclub and killing 21 kids, we would have a very different view of the world and what political and judicial steps had to be taken to ensure our survival. All right, on to, I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to play a song for you written for Mitch McConnell and the Republicans over Elena Kagan. This is going to be fun. Don't go away.
Don't try to be subtle or clever. Use a pile driver. Hit the point once, then come back and hit it a second time. A tremendous whack. Sir Winston Churchill.
Welcome back, friend. I wrote a little song for Mitch McConnell and company. I hope you enjoyed, and then I'm going to give you a call to battle after this beautiful serenade.
Well, I didn't actually write this tune, but I'm going to cover it today. I changed the lyrics in hopes that it would bless you, strengthen you, and otherwise challenge you to greater acts of love and mercy. Mitch McConnell had a farm, E-I-G-O-P, and on that farm he had some chickens, E-I-G-O-P, with an Ornhatch here and a John Carl there, and here a Sessions, there a Graham, everywhere a chicken. Mitch McConnell had a farm, E-I-G-O-P, and on that farm he had some rats, E-I-G-O-P, with a lie here and a lie there. Here a lie, there a campaign lie, there a pontificating Sunday morning talk show lie. Mitch McConnell had a farm, E-I-G-O-P. I think that to really spice it up a little bit, we need to take it home. Give you that word picture that you really need to make sense of it all. Mitch McConnell, he had a farm, E-I-G-O-P, and on that farm he had some weasels, E-I-G-O-P, with a weasel here and a weasel there, and here a weasel, there a weasel, yeah, there ain't nothing but weasel. Oh, Mitch McConnell, he had a farm, the E-I-G-O-P. Weasels, rats, and chickens unite.
Well, it's all in good fun. Rats and chickens and weasels. What else would you want on a GOP farm? Listen, here's your call to battle. Call up your senators. In fact, ring the phone of Orrin Hatch off the hook. Orrin Hatch is now saying, oh, he'll vote against her, but he won't filibuster. Why not, Mr. Senator? That's what elections are all about. These guys say elections matter. Yeah, not just presidential elections. The elections of U.S. senators matter. You were elected in part to help buffer in this president. Do you want Elena Kagan on the court for the next 25, 30, 35 years? Filibuster her. 202-224-3121. That is the phone number for all of Capitol Hill. If you've got a Democrat senator, tell them you want them to vote against her. If you've got a Republican senator, tell them you insist that they filibuster. And you might want to put a call into Orrin Hatch and Mitch McConnell, especially, so that these guys do the right thing. I'll be right back with a word from one of our founders.
Let them be put to shame and confusion altogether who rejoice at my calamity. Let them be clothed with shame and dishonor who magnify themselves against me. Amen.
Hi, friend. I'm Randall Terry. Thomas Jefferson said, "A Bill of Rights is what the people are entitled to against every government, and what no just government should refuse or rest on inference." The Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the 10th Amendment, saying that whatever is not delineated in the Constitution is left to the people and to the states, respectively. These magnificent foundations of our government and these testimonies of our God-given rights and liberties, these stand out in the history of the world as being some of the most noble and the most just rights defined and delineated in any governing document. But the crisis we're facing is this. Our Bill of Rights is being trampled regularly by the federal government and by the U.S. Supreme Court. Think about it. You had that case in California very recently where a Christian group was denied having its club on campus because they would not allow non-Christians and open homosexuals or people involved in open fornication to be members. In other words, the government, the court said, hey, you have to be able to have an atheist, or you have to be able to have somebody practicing some pagan religion or some immoral sexual lifestyle. You have to have that if you want to be a club. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian club. Now, the First Amendment guarantees our right to religion and our right to freedom of association, but that court ruling trashed that right. This is the crisis we're in. This is why we need to filibuster Kagan. See you tomorrow.